O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. So, नमस्कार, वेलकम. आज का जो टॉक है वो ब्रदर बीडी तेंदुलकर जी देंगे. वो नेशनल लेक्चरर हैं और महाराष्ट्र फेडरेशन के मेंबर हैं और हमारे यहाँ पे शंकर लॉज में बहुत बड़े लेक्चर दे चुके हैं. Today's lecture will be taken by brother B.D. Tendulkar ji. He has been very active in lectures in Shankar Lodge and he is a national lecturer as all of you know. Now today's topic is genesis of desire, its control
and sublimation.
तो आज का टॉपिक है जेनेसिस ऑफ डिजायर, उसका कंट्रोल और सब्लिमेशन. तो अब नाउ आई विल रिक्वेस्ट ब्रदर तेंदुलकर जी, काइंडली प्लीज स्टार्ट योर लेक्चर.
Yeah, thank you, Rajiv ji. I thank all other officials of the Shankar Lodge and Delhi Federation for this opportunity given to me to express on this topic. As Gupta ji mentioned, our topic today is genesis of desire, its control and sublimation. As spiritual aspirant, it is a matter of concern to all of us to develop sensitive, pure vehicles for our consciousness. And this, of course, involves a need to understand the self-discovery and self-realization. And then only we will be able to use our vehicles as efficient instruments of the self. Since our topic today is related to genesis of desire, naturally we are more concerned with astral body. A body which is instrumental in understanding the astral aspect of existence relating to sensations, feelings, and emotions, and lastly, desire. These are different states of consciousness. As we know, our physical sense organs receive stimuli from the objects under our observation, and vibrations are produced, and they are converted. Vibrations are received from the physical plane through our five senses, sense organs, and they are converted into sensations as the science tells us. The sensations or vibrations are carried along the nerves to centers in brain, and they appear as sensations in consciousness. Occult science goes a step further and asserts that vibrations are first reflected from the dense brain, physical brain, into etheric brain. Science generally doesn't talk about etheric brain. And from there, from the etheric brain, they are reflected from etheric centers to astral centers. And then they appear as sensations. So we can see here how the vibrations transmit from different planes of consciousness. There are separate organs of sensation in astral body. We are not referring to those astral senses. We are referring to astral centers in this process of sensations. Generally, astral senses come into use when they are used as organs, sense organs, for clairvoyant purposes or clairaudient investigations, etc. We are not dealing with that aspect, which comes um, perhaps uh, in case of those who are advanced in extrasensory perceptions and clairvoyant investigations. These astral centers, as I mentioned, distinct from astral senses, have evolved much earlier in evolution, along with the sympathetic nervous system. And physical vibrations reach indwelling consciousness. These vibrations then get converted into either as sensations or perceptions or feelings or desire. The some vibrations get converted as sensations, some other, after reaching the astral centers, get reflected inwardly into mental body. So there is involvement of both astral body as well as mental body. And there they appear as perceptions. Other vibrations appear as feelings. And we are more concerned with these vibrations which appear as feelings. Feelings, as we know, are of two types: pleasant feelings and unpleasant feelings. Because all sensations are not pleasant. Those which give us pleasure are pleasant, those which give us pain are unpleasant. And there is then a desire which comes into picture, because we desire to have pleasant sensations and we are inclined to avoid unpleasant sensations. So that is the genesis of desire, we can say, that the vibrations which we receive from the external world, some of them create this desire. And that is due to the fundamental primary change in consciousness which occurs along with our perception. So, if they are pleasant, we want to experience them again. If they are painful, we don't want to experience them. This is desire. And this change is connected with both astral and mental body. Generally, in large majority of human beings, astral body is more or less developed. Mental body is undergoing development. So among majority of people, we find the functioning of astral body dominates functioning of the mental body. And this, in case of those who are advanced, where intellect has developed to a considerable degree, perhaps um, mind um, takes initiative or dominates over uh, feelings and emotions. But there is combination of both, and there are various mental factors which make the desires complex. They are of complex nature, and their role in life becomes increasingly predominant. In the initial stages of evolution, they are simple, but as evolution proceeds, they become more and more complex. So if we want to trace genesis of desire, that will help us to understand where to apply break in a series of changes in consciousness, because all this is a play of changes in consciousness. And can we control the changes in consciousness is a point on which we are more concerned. We see that we feel these changes in our consciousness in day-to-day matters also. It may be relating to our food habits. Food comes in contact with our palate. It affects the taste buds, and the vibrations produced in the taste buds reach the centers in the astral body as sensations. So we eat to derive those sensations which are pleasant. We avoid eating those which cause unpleasant sensations. This is a common experience of all of us. But after sensation is over, memory remains. And that memory arouses desire. So it's a play of the functions of the mind in relation to either memory or anticipation uh, of things in the future. So, um, we can see this in all things. Taimini has given example of the flower, fragrance of the flower. That if we like that fragrance, we may desire to have the flower, or if we want to have repeated experience, we may think of planting that in our own garden and ensure that we will be able to enjoy and derive pleasure on a regular basis. So, this desire to plant in our own garden is a more of a complex nature of desire. Just to smell it and that's the end of it. It is a simple thing. But when it becomes more complex, when along with that our desire for repeated pleasure and keeping it under our control, not leaving it to chance where visiting the public garden. So these kinds of complex feelings and thoughts, there are thoughts more in this second action. So we can see how thought makes feelings or emotions more complex. So the present generation of humanity is passing through these complex desires. We cannot live with senses closed. We want to control, no doubt, because without controlling our vehicles, we will really not be able to use our bodies as instruments of the soul. So we need to control. Control in the sense we need to educate them rather to realize that they have no independence existence of their own. They are just instruments of the soul and they have to function as instruments of the soul. But generally, what happens, as we know all, consciousness is there everywhere. And there is a residual consciousness in vehicles also, apart from our self consciousness or our individual consciousness as a whole. So, um, as long as we have not uh, mastered these modifications in the consciousness, the vehicles tend to behave in their own way as per their residual consciousness. And only when we develop mastery um, in our individual consciousness, when it is more influential than the residual consciousness of the vehicles, then it becomes perhaps easy to control the vehicles in the sense allowing only the modifications in consciousness which are of a desirable nature and eliminating modifications in consciousness of undesirable nature. This, of course, requires purification of vehicles, disciplining of vehicles, regulating, controlling them in a desired manner. So, um, it is not possible to keep our senses closed in order to become desireless. that state of desireless is not so simple to achieve. So, can we achieve that even while our senses are open? Senses are active, we are receiving the vibrations, and vibrations are producing their results. Do we have control over that process? Can we be in a position to ensure that sensations are there, we experience those sensations, and yet those sensations remain non desire producing? There should be no desire, which means we may enjoy the pleasure produced by them, but we will not be after that pleasure. Or there may be unpleasantness, pain, and a tendency to avoid them, and yet we will remain indifferent or neutral to them. So, that is a kind of, I think, culture which we have to develop. And as I have seen, most of the majority of mankind has already reached a stage of well developed astral body and underdeveloped lower mental body. The man who doesn't understand desire or genesis of desire, or is not conscious of that desire, or is not determined to control that desire, because he has to pass through this exposure to sensations. He has to pass through the attractions and repulsions produced by them. And then he has to be subject to the bindings produced by the forces of desire arising as a result of those feelings of uh, pleasure or pain. Can we pass through the experiences and yet remain without getting bound by the results? Mind should remain free in this exercise. Generally, what happens? If mind remains connected with objects of desire, then this is not possible. Mind has to be free to give thought to higher things, which in other words means mind shouldn't get itself identified with those experiences. It must be able to pass through those sensations, get the experience, and use that experience for learning the genesis of desires, not for enjoying pleasures or avoiding pain. That is a kind of exercise which the aspirant has to go through. Then only he can give thought to a higher kind of living in which senses don't play any role. Then only man can think of living a noble life, a selfless life, and going further, an unselfish life, living for others. Along with the development of our lower vehicles, we are also developing or unfolding our higher vehicles. Because if we use our lower vehicles for higher purposes, then only it is possible that there will be awakening and unfolding of the higher. And if we live life in that manner, a life of an aspirant or a yogi following the Ashtanga path, beginning with Yama Niyama, which lays down the foundation for a moral ethical life, which is essential for living an unselfish life or living for others. So, development of um, Buddhic vehicle on the Buddhic plane is a prerequisite for this exercise, because then only mind gets illumined, then only the faculty of discrimination develops. After all, what this light from Buddhic plane does, normally we use our lower mind as an instrument for knowledge, but that is only the knowledge of the image produced in the mental body. It is not the object in reality. It is the illumination of the image by the buddhi that converts that image into reality. And then we know what actually exists as reality. Otherwise, it is an approximation of reality and therefore an illusion, because it is not reflecting the truth as it is. It is only a modified version of the truth, we can say. If this faculty is developed, then there is a ability developed to understand spiritual truth. Then only we can intuitively recognize existence of things, not in their physical form, but superphysical form. Then only we can appreciate existence of subtle things. Normally, we demand proof for existence of things which are non-existent to us. But a person who has developed intuitive capacity has the ability to understand that existence of non-existent. And therefore, such a person doesn't ask for proof of existence. Otherwise, we will see a common man will always ask for evidence of existence. So, that is the difference between an aspirant on the spiritual path and an ordinary man. When buddhi influences mind, that influence causes a divine urge within, and that urge awakens our spiritual nature. Then mind starts thinking of things, of the deep, ultimate problems of life. Then he seeks a way out of illusion of the world, then only he seeks way out of suffering. Then only he realizes the kinship with fellow beings. This is all the effect of shifting of the center of our consciousness from the lower mind to the higher level. This urge, if it is properly heeded and guided, ultimately leads to what we call perfection. As long as we are affected by worldly desires, we go on wandering through lives, cycle of birth and death. Because we are caught in the rival attractions and repulsions, ups and downs. So there is a need to be strong enough to remain unaffected by pleasure and pain. As Bhagavad Gita says, to remain in equilibrium in both states. Tamadukhe sukhe krutva labha labho jaya jayo. In opposites, whether we can maintain our equilibrium, that is the question. So, the sensations should not be characterized with quality of pain and pleasure. We should be able to receive sensation without these feelings. Of course, somebody may say, if we have to live like that, how can we enjoy life? Can we all the time doing this exercise like a man doing dissection of things and trying to understand? But this is I think, transition period of learning and training our vehicles and gaining control over the modifications in consciousness which result in passing of consciousness through these vehicles. Once there is process of purification and refinement in the vehicles, this becomes a natural process. Then there is not a situation where we cannot enjoy life and become only the observers of what is happening within us. Perhaps for some time we should give up those desires for pleasure or our keenness to avoid pain. If we spend sufficient time in this period of trial and testing, then the vehicles get disciplined and they develop the strength to withstand the modifications taking place. We see that there is always external impacts affecting us. And can we remain indifferent or neutral? A person who is addicted to drink, can he remain unaffected in the company of drunkards? That is difficult. So he has to sacrifice that temptation of being in the company of drunkards till he develops that strength of resistance. That is a kind of sacrifice in order to get something in return of a lasting value. And this power is the nature of desire. Desire is related to will. Will is a divine thing. We know Atma, will, wisdom, activity, we call those different aspects. So, will is that. And we also know that it is mysteriously related to our physical vehicle. So, even this power of attraction and repulsion, its essence lies in willpower. It appears as desire at the level of personality or our lower vehicles. It is the will's reflection on the astral plane. What does desire really do? Desire draws out power of self. Desire draws out power of self, drawn out by external objects, by attraction or repulsion. So, what happens in this experiencing or exposure to things which either attract or repulse? This process draws out power of the self. So self becomes weak in that process. And this is because of our exposure to external stimulus. Will goes out independently of external stimulus, while desire, there is external stimulus. Both carry power of accomplishment. This is one thing which we must remember. That desire is equally helpful as will. Will for spiritual accomplishment, desire for worldly accomplishment. And the force of desire is proportionate to the intensity of desire. If we really very, very strongly desire for something, even for worldly aims or gains, it works. The force of desire brings the object of your desire nearer to your grasping capacity. And it has the power of creating favorable circumstances to bring quick result. A man of desire and man without desire, there is definitely a difference, even from the worldly point of view. Favorable circumstances bring quick results, but those favorable circumstances come as a result of your desire. They may come not immediately, they will take their own time. Again, it depends upon the nature of the object. Simple object, there may be quick results. Complex objects, results may take time. Very complex problem like self-realization may take lives, incarnations after incarnations. But we have to remember that karmic background plays a role in this. But the pull begins immediately. Pull caused by the desire on the object of your achievement. When the desire fully merges in will, that is, when it is purified, when it is freed from contamination of personal self, then it is not really a desire, it is really a will, because it is similar to the supreme desire, desire of the supreme. Energy of self drawn out by outer objects, it is desire. Desire, we can say that the energy of willpower, when energy of self is drawn out of the self by outer objects, it is desire. So there, self is exposed to objects, and the self is weak than the influence of the object. Then it becomes desire. If the self is strong enough, then it will remain as a will, and it will be like a divine desire or will, supreme desire or will. When we enclose ourselves as individual, there is separation of the divine and individual. But when that limitation is removed, then individual self and the universal self gets united. Mind also becomes a reflection of the universal mind. So, dross of personal self degenerates will into desire. To describe it in few words, we can say that dross of personal self degenerates will into desire. Desire, when impersonal and sent out in accomplishment of divine purposes, it is spiritual will. So, this is the intimate relation between the desire and will. People of strong desire, this is something worth noting, are more promising than those with weak desires. Even there may be good people doing good all the time, but with weak desire. And there may be sometimes bad people, but with strong desire. Whom will you prefer for spiritual development in priority? Those who lack power or those who have power? This desire, strong desire, even of a person who may not be very spiritual, shows the presence of spiritual will corrupted by dross of selfishness. So there is spiritual will present, but it is corrupted by dross of selfishness. Weak desire is indicative of laziness, absence of energetic approach to strive for accomplishment of goals vigorously. This we find. There are good people, but they are not effective. And there may be bad people, but very, very effective in organizing, using the factors in their favor, and accomplishing their goals. So, if the same energy is utilized for spiritual purposes, they are perhaps very near to the ultimate goal. Therefore, it is said, the greater the sinner, the greater the saint. So, it is quite possible that you can see a future saint in a present sinner. More possibility than seeing the saint in a man with very weak power of desire and that enthusiasm for accomplishment. Elimination of personal dross leads to purification of action. When there is absence of personal dross, there is action which is pure. You do what is right. You are not inclined to do something which is not right. It is a motive power of action. Desire is a motive power of action. Desire makes mind think of action to fulfill ways and means of accomplishment. A man who lacks that will not move in that direction. He is lazy. He is not enthusiastic enough to move. But this is a plus point of a man who has a strong desire. Therefore, it is worth trying. Whatever you desire, place an object before you. Have that object clearly in your vision. Begin to desire it. That very exercise draws it nearer to you. The more is the intensity of desire, the greater is the force of attraction. That force of attraction is proportionate to the intensity of desire. Desire prompts action, and prompt action brings accomplishment nearer. If you don't act and only think of accomplishment, nothing will happen. Distant goals, of course, take time. They may not be realized in this incarnation before death. But they may bring accomplishment much earlier, perhaps in the next incarnation, if not in the present one. Because there is ample possibility that you will get capacities and circumstances appropriate to the accomplishment of your goals. So indirectly, these factors which arise out of your karmic background will help in accomplishing the goals of desire. Goals of enlightenment, liberation may take several lives. Will becomes desire in involution. If we see involution and evolution, in the process of involution, will becomes desire. In the process of evolution, desire becomes will. So we can look at this whole journey of will through desire to back again into that desire, divine will. Involution, desire sublimates into will in evolution. So this is the process of sublimation which we are talking about. As we evolve, the desire sublimates into will. Observation of yama niyama, building of character, living morally and unselfishly, all these are aid where the same energy of desire appears as spiritual will. So the journey begins from spiritual will back into the spiritual will. Only desire is an intermediate form or transformation of that will. That requires the self direction, self determination. So that requires a strong desire. So that's why the greater the sinner, the greater the saint is used in that context. So such a worldly man possesses that basic material out of which um, we can carve out what we really want to accomplish. Desire evolves from intensely personal, narrow, selfish to broader, impersonal desire with growing interest. We can see man in the beginning may be very selfish, but then he outgrows that individual selfishness when he becomes a family man. Then he thinks of his wife, his children, his parents. So he has outgrown that narrow selfishness. He gives now enough importance to others. Maybe those are near and dear to him, but he has evolved. He may develop further interest in the community or race to which he belongs. He may develop pride in the nation of which he is a citizen. These are stages in which the same desire energy takes forms which are compatible with expression of those uh, fundamental or nascent or hidden properties of the monarch, which we are here to evolve to their fullness, with everyone possessing uniqueness, and that uniqueness has to be developed through incarnations. So that requires this kind of self determination, that strong will, and gradual elimination of uh, the personal selfish dross. Will at macro level in universal mind, and its shadow appearing as desire in individualized mind. In the universal mind, it is a will, divine will. And we receive its shadow in our individualized mind. Dawning of discrimination, that is viveka, leads to elimination of personal desire. When we are able to discriminate, then we become aware of our own selfishness. Then we don't justify that. Till that stage, that selfishness we are very much fond of. But when Viveka awakens, we feel that it is something which we should give up, drop out, in order to become pure, to become refined, to become noble. So, development of that discrimination, which is possible with the Buddhic light, enlightening the mental images and making us aware of their real nature, is a process through which each aspirant has to pass. Desire sets in motion powers of mind for grasping and avoiding. We grasp things which are of our interest, we avoid things which we don't want to be with us. Constant, intimate association of desire and thought is a birthplace of emotions. As we have seen earlier, this association makes emotions complex. Association of desire and thought. It is a resultant state of consciousness produced by both together. So, how modifications take place in our consciousness becomes clear if we can see this influence of mind or desire and thought acting together. Analysis of emotions reveal three elements: feeling, as we have already seen, attraction, repulsion, and thought in different proportions and intensities. We see things, but result may be different in different individuals. Same object may produce a villager seeing a sunset or sunrise, and a poet in the city seeing the same sunset, sunrise, will produce different effects. So the consciousness is influenced in different manners. Can we develop this effect of influence in a selective manner? Can we expose ourselves to selected objects? And even our exposure to undesirable objects, can we remain indifferent by their influence? What's the time? I think we have come to the end of the time space allotted to us. Perhaps we may cover the later portions in a subsequent session whenever it is possible to cover. Gupta ji, shall I conclude here?
Yes, brother. Yes, please conclude.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Anybody who would like to uh, give any views, comments on whatever portion we have covered so far?
Good evening, Brother Tendulkar ji.
Good
I,
evening,
I am Surendranath Datta from Kolkata.
Shailendranath. Oh,
Uh,
thanks.
I attended a bit late for your speech.
Oh,
However, I could make some distinction between desire and will.
right,
Will is the higher and purer form of desire, as you said, I think.
right.
But my question is, can we have will and desire for the same time at the for at once?
Uh, why I think you desire to have both together?
Hmm.
Uh, because the basic requirement for this distinction is the appearance of desire at a level of consciousness which doesn't match with level of consciousness at which it will appear as a will, because you cannot have selfishness and unselfishness at the same time. Is it possible?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Then it is the different planes of existence. You mean to say that
Uh,
karmic effect?
Different planes of consciousness, I will say.
Okay.
It is no doubt possible to change the center of our consciousness from plane to plane. But if the motive behind remains the same, then how
Yes.
is it possible to realize this movement of consciousness from a lower level to higher level? Because it is that motive power which will actually bring about this shift in consciousness. That is also an energy behind the modification in consciousness.
Then motive is the important thing which leads us to desire or to will.
Uh, yeah, motive decides the direction,
Oh,
while the energy causes the movement. So, if the movement is in the right direction, then you will achieve the goals. But there cannot be contradictory goals to be achieved by the same movement. Am I clear?
yes, yes. But then strength of desire
Uh,
this is also what we need to achieve the object.
yes, if the object is of a worldly nature,
Hmm.
then strength is good enough for that. But if your goal is spiritual, then you cannot have the same tool for achieving a spiritual goal, which is useful on the physical plane
Hmm.
to achieve worldly goal.
Hmm.
So there has to be unfoldment of consciousness at a loftier level,
Yes.
where your motive will direct you. If the
Yes.
motive is not directing you to those lofty regions of consciousness, then we are likely to remain bound to the worldly states of consciousness. We may be successful in achieving our worldly goals, but will still may not really be gaining anything worthwhile which we will carry after this incarnation. Something
Yes.
of a permanent nature, if we want to gain, then that is possible only when there is change in our motives.
That is, worldly desires can be achieved in this birth, but
Yes,
if we go
yes.
for spiritual thing, it may take several births or incarnations.
Uh, Depending upon the ultimate goal,
Yes.
for goals, though spiritual, but of a nature which do not demand very exhaustive spiritual discipline
Yes.
and
Yes.
practice. Smaller spiritual goals can be achieved even in this incarnation itself.
Yeah.
It will not
Okay.
take lives for that.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a sadhaka will achieve spiritual progress, certainly, but that is not enough to achieve the state of liberation or perfection in one incarnation,
Oh.
unless there is a background of previous births in which
Yes.
he has also practiced spirituality with great enthusiasm and intensity.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment?
Thank you very much, brother. I think no one else is there to pose a question or to give a comment.
Thank you, Raji.
And thank you very much for such an elucidating talk on this topic of desire. Now, with your permission, I will close the meeting with the universal prayer. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. So
Thanks,
thank you very
everyone.
much, brother. Thank you
Yeah.
very much, and thank you to all the participants. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very
The
much,
meeting is
sir.
thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you
Thank
very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.